Um, Thank you so much for joining us for today's event. I am Kathleen Spehar, the Executive Director of the Council on Culture and Arts, also known as COCA, and I thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be here for our stellar webinar on storytelling for impact. Joining us today, we've got some special guests and we've got our hosts. So joining me today as co-hosts are Amber Tynan, Executive Director of United Partners in Human Services, UPHS, and Felina Martin, Executive Director of the Institute for Nonprofit Innovation and Excellence, also known as INE, who is currently on another event and will be with us shortly. So the collaboration between our organizations began in April when the city and county initiated LEAN, which is a grant program, stimulus program for nonprofits. So as the needs of nonprofits continue to rise in many portions of our sector, we recognize the value and the power of this cross-sector collaboration. And so we've been offering town halls and candidate forums, and now this webinar to help our sector learn and grow. So before we dive in today, let's review some Zoom etiquette. I know it's probably old school right now, but there we go. We're going to do it anyways. So just so that you know, this is a public event that is being recorded. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and please put those in the Zoom chat. And to find that chat, you can access it through the chat icon, which is the black bar located at the bottom of your screen. Rebecca Hare-Stewart from INE will be moderating the Zoom chat today, and Erica Thaler from COCA will be also assisting and guiding guests into our webinar, collecting any questions that may pop up, and also helping to troubleshoot. So again, we've got a great team here, and we're super excited that you are here to join us. So now we're going to be moving into our webinar as we continue to look for new ways to help ourselves as a sector and increase our impact in the community. We're very excited to offer today's event to you. Storytelling for Impact is designed to help you gain new perspectives on how to tell the mission and impact of your organization through storytelling. By using this technique, you can attract potential donors and volunteers to support your mission and your vision for your organization. Supporting your causes, creating awareness for your organization, recruiting volunteers to support your cause, or all sorts of ways to create awareness for your organization. So without further ado, more information on the webinar and our guest speaker is going to be continued by Amber Tynan. So I'm turning it over to you. Take it away, Amber.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathleen, and thank you all for being here. As Kathleen said, today's webinar will be focused on storytelling for impact. So we're hopeful that through this hour-long journey, you will get a better understanding of the value and the power behind storytelling, the various elements to a good story to help you really elevate your impact, but also reach your goals, and then really bring your stories to life. And to help us lead this webinar, we have Michelle Ubben. She's the president and partner at Sachs Media. She has designed an interactive and informative workshop to help you tell your organization's story and its impact on those you serve. She's known as the Master of Rhetoric. Michelle has managed Sachs Media Group to be one of Florida's top independent public relations firms and one of the top 100 in the nation, one of Florida Trend's best places to work, and 2011 Small Agency of the Year, and 2014 Best Agency for Nonprofit Communications by the Bulldog Reporter. She has created award-winning campaigns to rebrand Florida's public adoption system, connect Florida veterans to earn benefits and services, and promote child abuse reporting. With 14 years of a career as a communications director for 4 state agencies, insurance, agriculture, and consumer services, children and families in the Florida Senate, she comes to us with a wealth of knowledge. She has passion for creating campaigns that change public behavior and has won 2 Emmy Awards, a National Gracie Award, a Dick Pope All Florida Golden Image Award for Best PR Campaign of the Year. She was named Top Woman in PR in 2015 by PR News, holds a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism from the University of Central Florida and a Master of Arts in Rhetoric from the Florida State University. And if that didn't get you pumped up and excited enough for what expertise and passion she plans to share with you. I am honored to release the floor to you, Michelle, and thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for that incredible introduction. You helped me remember a few things that I forgot about along the way. I'll tell you that I also, my husband Matt and I also have 6 children. And so it's been a wonderful journey, and learned a lot from telling them stories over the years too. So I love this topic. And can I share my screen? Yes, I can. Give me a moment to make sure the technology works. All right, hold on one second. Okay, everyone see that?
Yes, looks great.
Wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you today, and we do want this to be interactive. We've got a number of prompts along the way where I will ask you to think about your organization and how you might apply some of what we're talking about to you. And I'd ask you to use either the chat function or the Q&A function to share your insights and thoughts. Feel free to ask questions at any point along the way, and I'd be glad to answer those. But to begin, let me just say, storytelling is part of what makes us human. It is so fundamental to who we are. And, I don't think that we can be fully human without our stories. So for the nonprofit sector, as you said, we were named Agency of the Year for Nonprofit Communications a few years back. We love our nonprofit work because the impacts of your organizations and our communities and making lives better through what you do is just so powerful. So storytelling, especially in the nonprofit sector, just has the ability to get people very bought into your mission and excited about the lives that you're impacting, and move you forward on a number of goals that we'll talk about a little bit later. I thought I would open with a story. How better to begin a storytelling workshop than to share a story. This is a story from a while back. You'll tell from some of the pre-COVID and pre-Amazon aspects to this story. But some years back, I usually work through lunch. This is back when we were in the office. And on this particular day, I decided to use my lunch hour to run out to the mall because I had to trade in a blouse for a different size, and a book I had ordered from Barnes & Noble's was in, and I wanted to pick it up. So ran out to the mall, made my 2 stops, and ready to head back, and was walking through the food court, and I was hit with the amazing smell of fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. And usually don't indulge in sweets in the middle of the day, but it was just such a wonderful memory of how much I love chocolate chip cookies. And there was a sign on the kiosk that said 3 cookies for $2. So I bought my 3 cookies. I put them in a little paper bag, and I decided to actually just sit for a minute, enjoy my cookies, and go through my book that I had purchased. So I sat at a table that was like a communal table. There was a man sitting next to me. I arranged my bags in my purse and started thumbing through the book when the man reached into the bag of my cookies and took a cookie and started eating it. I was shocked, wasn't quite sure how to handle it. Don't like conflict, especially with strangers. So I'm debating with myself what to do. And so I reach into the bag, I grab the second cookie, I start eating it, and to at least send a physical signal that he had crossed the line. And he smiled at me and reached into the bag and broke the third cookie in half, took it, and kind of nudged the bag in my direction. Well, at this point, I'm enraged. How arrogant. If he wanted a cookie, he could have asked for it. So I grabbed the bag, I grabbed all of my purse and my bags, and I storm out of the mall, walk across the parking lot, just stewing all the time. And when I get to my car, I open my purse looking for my keys, and there I see my bag of 3 cookies. So hopefully you can relate to me as the protagonist in that story. Hopefully I took you on a little bit of an emotional journey, from anger to embarrassment. I think we all in this environment right now could afford to be able to look at things from other people's perspectives. And that's one of the things stories allow us to do. So why are stories so powerful? For one thing, researchers believe that we are evolutionarily hardwired to respond to stories. They believe that we actually evolved the way we did because storytelling allowed us to experience things and problem solve as a group without actually having to live through those things ourselves. And so it cultivated our ability to solve problems as a species. So it really is very significant to our development as humans. Another reason that stories are powerful is that they're sticky. We remember them. There's a study by the London Business School that documented that retention rates, when information is presented in different forms, really varies depending on how information is presented, and storytelling can substantially increase retention. In fact, if you add just some storytelling elements to a presentation, you can increase retention by 25 to 30%. Using storytelling as a standalone communication method drives up retention by as much as 65 or 70%. So a well-told story is fundamentally memorable. Stories also create connections between people, and at its best, a story can create empathy, can allow us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Leo Widrich describes research that suggests that when we hear a story, it triggers more parts of our brain than just reading information, which may just trigger the language processing parts of our brain. But as in the story I told you a minute ago, a good story allows us to connect to the protagonist, to put ourselves in their shoes, and to imagine what we would do in their circumstances, and to even feel what they're feeling. A great story transports us. And when you achieve that, you have full brain engagement, including the emotional parts of our brain, not just the logical parts. You know, Maya Angelou famously said that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And stories do make us feel things. Ideally, a story will trigger emotion. You know, think about when you were maybe a kid camping, sitting around a campfire, and somebody started telling a ghost story. And your heart rate increases, you get goosebumps, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. And then think about other stories that that moved you to tears. Like you might have actually felt silly crying, hearing somebody else's story, but it's because, you know, you could imagine those circumstances happening to you. Or a story that makes you laugh until, you know, tears of laughter are rolling down your face. It's a powerful thing to actually experience what someone else has experienced without having actually done that. And that's what a story allows us to do. Finally, stories are powerful because they can move us to action. Whether it's to vote a certain way, whether it's to become a brand loyalist for a particular company, it may be to contribute your money or donate your time. But stories at their best can move us to take an action. And for nonprofits, that's the ball game, right? You want to use storytelling to get people to do something that will support your organization and further its goals. So stories that move people to action have 3 elements. They're built on strong emotional engagement. If there is not an emotional trigger in your story, it's less likely to get people to take an action. It's got a rationale that connects with the realities of your reader or your listener. So the protagonist's goal has to make sense. You know, if the story has somebody doing something that you sit there and say, well, that's silly. Like, why are they doing that? That's foolish. You're probably not going to get bought in and take action. And then you have to have a clear sense of urgency. If you don't take action, something bad will happen. If you do take action, something good may happen. So you've got to have that sense that a lot's riding on it and they have to act quickly. So you probably remember from language arts class in high school, the story arc. This is every story that you will see, every movie you see, every fictional book you read is based on this story arc. And, you know, the media presents stories this way because this is really what humans crave in a story. They don't want ambiguity. They don't want complexity. They want a hero they can relate to, a problem, a dramatic climax, it's resolved, and then there's transformation. A story where nothing happens is not a story. A story that ends worse than it started, you know, is probably not a recipe for a good story. I've got several novels kicking around in my brain that I'd like to write someday, but my problem is, like a mother, you know, I want to protect my characters and I don't want anything to happen to them. So, you know, if you don't have a plot and allow your characters to face the brink of disaster, then you're probably not going to be able to tell a good story. Which takes us to the elements of story. First is a relatable protagonist. Is it somebody sympathetic? Is it someone who you can imagine yourself in their shoes? And it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody who has lived the same life that you've had. You know, when Jill Biden told the story of becoming the stepmother to Joe's sons, you know, my husband Matt was widowed and had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old when we got together. And, you know, so it just took me back and I could really relate to her story because of my own story. But you don't even need that close a parallel to someone's life to be able to relate to a protagonist, as long as it's somebody who you can root for, you know, somebody who has goals that you can understand, and somebody that you want to succeed by the end of the story. And that gets us to the protagonist having a clear goal and an understandable motive. If they're, again, making choices that don't make sense and that's not finally resolved, probably isn't a good protagonist. You also have to have obstacles that create risk and struggle when you tell the story. The story that doesn't have this isn't interesting or memorable. To take the audience on a journey, there has to be the risk of failure. You know, you have to show that everything is on the line and the character has to struggle to meet a goal. If the end of the story is the same as the start, then it feels futile to listen to it. And then you need a resolution, the denouement. You need a transformation, and that's really where you come in as nonprofits, because you have an opportunity to connect your mission to the protagonist's story and the transformation. So interestingly, these elements of storytelling, the story arc that we talked about, are common across cultures, across the planet. The same classic narrative structure shows up in Hindu scripture. It shows up in the coyote stories of the Navajo Nation. Every Greek play, classic Greek play, Shakespeare, and every hit Pixar movie they all use this same story arc. So it's a time-tested and proven method that you can use in your storytelling. Kurt Vonnegut even did some work on mapping out the shape of stories and posited that the New Testament is the same story shape as Cinderella. So there are good reasons that you should follow this pattern in your own storytelling. So this can be simplified into a formula. And even though every story is different, they do follow a very predictable pattern. And playwright Ken Adams calls this the story spine. Once upon a time, there was, every day, one day, because of that, because of that, because of that, until finally, and ever since then. So, this can be a really helpful way to just kind of plug in the holes and get a framework for your story. So let me give you an example. Once upon a time, there was a sweet orphaned girl who lived with her evil stepmother and stepsisters. Every day, they made her cook and clean for them. One day, the prince announced he was throwing a ball to look for a bride, and all the eligible young women of the kingdom were invited. Because of that, Cinderella dreamed of going. Because of that, her stepmother said she couldn't go. Because of that, her fairy godmother appeared and used her magic to make a dress and a carriage to take her to the ball, but she had to be back by midnight. Because of that, she went to the ball and danced with the prince, who fell in love with her. Because of that, she forgot about the time and lost her slipper. Because of that, the prince found her slipper and ordered it to be taken to see who it fit. Until finally, the slipper made it to her house, she got to try it on, and it fit. And ever since then, she lived happily ever after with her prince. So that's kind of how the story spine works. We all know the stories, it's very predictable. But how does this translate to a story that a nonprofit might tell? Well, I'll give you an example of that. Once upon a time, there was a girl living in a remote part of Tanzania that is beautiful but impoverished. Because her parents had died, she and her sister had to live with their grandmother. Every day, she had to look after her sister so her grandmother could earn money to feed them. So even though she was smart, she never graduated from primary school. One day, she found her way to the City of Hope, a home and school for underprivileged children. Because of that, she learned to sew. Because of that, she was able to support herself and her sister. Until finally, she was able to start her own business using traditional African textiles. And ever since then, she's been able to sustain herself and her sister and teach other girls to sustain themselves by learning to sew. So that's kind of how it works. Can you imagine a story from your organization that might fit into that structure? You can use the chat feature if anybody wants to share a story. Eric, I don't know if I can see the chat or if you'd have to. All right, I'm going to go on while you are maybe composing some mini stories for yourself. And then, Eric, if you let me know, or if you let me know when one's available, we'll.
Hi, I'm just unmuted. I don't see anything in the chat. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue, but you all can take some time putting the bones of a story together if there's one that you'd like to share.
Here we have something now, actually, that just put in.
Okay.
Chris Peterson has, yeah. Oh, she was taking notes for herself. Never mind. We don't have anything in there.
All right. That's okay. We will get back to the chat function. So feel free to share something if an idea comes to you.
Michelle, yeah, I think they're just fascinated listening to you. You can see what they're saying. That somebody just says it's excellent. They're just really listening.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about then how to apply this formula to your organization. First, you find a protagonist who is sympathetic and relatable. Then you identify the villain, which could be poverty or homelessness, drug addiction, racial injustice, whatever is presenting the problem that the protagonist has to overcome. And then what is the protagonist's dilemma? And then how does your organization figure in to help the protagonist overcome the crisis? And then what is the resolution? How is the protagonist's life made better because of your organization? So let's take this and reduce it down even more. David Lieber is a Dallas Morning News columnist who did a TED Talk about the power of storytelling to change the world. And he reduced this formula down to what he calls the V formula. This is super helpful in social media where you don't have the time of a full-length film to develop an entire storyline. You have to very briefly, get into it and get out of it. So he says, you introduce the character, make people care about him, bring the story to its lowest point, and then turn it around and finish with a happy ending. That's the most abbreviated way to use this formula. If there's one thing I hope that everyone will take away from this talk today, it is a desire and a commitment to build a storytelling culture within your organization. There are stories happening at your organization, through your organization, that you are influencing absolutely every day. It's a matter of having the eyes to see them and the ears to hear them. So, beginning to notice them yourself, training your team to listen for them, harvesting them and saving them, and then, figuring out which ones you can actually use. Building an appreciation of stories. And that means sharing them. When you have a staff meeting, when you have a brainstorm session, opening it with a story that is, grown out of your organization will get people more bought into your mission, will get them more excited about the work that you're doing, but it'll also get them to start bubbling up stories that they become aware of. So sharing stories regularly with your staff, with your donors, with your members at every opportunity. And then expanding the visibility of stories. If your staff see you using stories that they bubble up, they will look for more. They will share more. They will understand that it is an important part of your culture. And then do some training, build storytellers on your staff, help them to understand the why and the how of storytelling so that, the entire organization becomes a storytelling organization. Then you want to think about your goals for storytelling. You can, do a lot with stories. You can use them for fundraising purposes. You can use them to improve click-throughs or engagement in your social media or on your website. Stories can be a great way to grow membership, to have people become bought into your mission and to decide that they want to be a part of it. They can help donors understand a specific problem and care about it, care about making a difference in solving that, and realize that their legacy can relate to your organization and their donation. You can use storytelling to thank donors for their impact and inspire other donors to have a similar impact. You can certainly use storytelling for social media engagement and to increase social shares and views of your videos. And then finally, to inspire loyalty and trust, to know that you're an organization that is making a difference in something that I might care about. So let's use the chat feature again to just throw out some of the goals that you have for storytelling in your organization.
So somebody wants to know their goal is to connect with donors.
Okay, I think that's a fundamental goal of storytelling, because you have the ability to trigger emotion, get people bought in on a mission, and move them to action with a good story. Anything else?
Yes. Keep donors from year to year. And then, I don't know if you want me to list names or not. Somebody wants to know, as part of adaptive leadership, leading social change efforts, moving people to change when it's difficult. Also, connecting students to community.
Those are great goals.
Good morning, Michelle. It looks like we also have Bruce who's participating. FSU, welcome, Bruce. He says, as part of adaptive leadership, leading social efforts, moving people to change when it's difficult is definitely a goal. And Paige, good morning. She says, connect students to community. And then Katrina Rivers says, increase membership and participation is a goal.
There's no question that all of those are goals that can be accomplished with good storytelling. So let's talk about the ways that you might do that, the ways that you might use storytelling to accomplish any one of those goals. One is earned media. Journalism is based on the story arc. It's based on telling people stories. So if you have a compelling human story and can, get media interest in that, that is a great way to raise the visibility for your organization and encourage people to find out more about you. Thought leadership is, it could take the form of an op-ed, it could take the form of blogs, it may be video interviews, it may be a Q&A with your organization's leader, but it's one thing to say, this is an important issue and here's what we have to do about it. It's another thing to get people to buy into that change through a powerful story. So, the next time you write an op-ed, do an interview, exert thought leadership in one way or another, think about weaving a powerful story into that persuasive messaging. Social media, we'll get into that a little bit more, but obviously social media is made for storytelling. Your website, and then live events, whether those are, an event in the room, maybe you kick off an annual conference with a story told on video, or a virtual event, as everybody's gone to these days. We spend our whole lives on Zoom, and it can get exhausting to live in front of a screen all day. A story told well as a video can help break up the monotony of Zoom events. It's important when you develop a storytelling strategy to decide how you're going to measure success. What is the goal of it, and then how are you going to measure the effect of your storytelling? So this could come down to the number of views of a video, for instance, the time spent watching your story, the donations received, the number or the amount. It could be new members who join. It could be the number of tickets you sell to an upcoming event. Or it could be the growth of followers, or the increased engagement on your social media platforms. But knowing clearly at the front end how you're going to measure success will give you a chance to see what stories are most effective, what platforms for telling them, what method of telling them works the best, so that it can inform your strategy going forward. One way to make stories more effective is to make them visual. That can, take the form of infographics, photographs, videos, but a story that has powerful visual elements is going to be much more effective on all of those characteristics we talked about earlier: moving people to action, creating empathy, triggering emotion. if you have strong visuals to go with it. This is, you know, just an example of an infographic. And this would have been probably like it could have been a 5 to 10 page narrative report. Instead, presenting it in a visual fashion allowed for a wealth of information to be shared in a very, you know, visual and short format that people can easily digest. You know, everyone is feeling overwhelmed with information, and so you've got to break through the clutter by packaging your information in a way that people can scan and then decide that they're hungry for more and go deeper. So an infographic is one good way of doing visual storytelling. So why are visual stories important? Well, for one thing, you know, infographics receive 72% more views than text articles. A lot of organizations want to get into a whole lot of detail in explaining their mission, laying out a problem, you know, explaining why what you're doing makes a difference. But that's a little bit further down the line. First, you have to just get people to pay attention. And so an infographic is a great way to get them into the funnel to find out more information. We know that people are much more likely to share social videos than text and images combined. And they're more likely to make a purchase after they watch branded social media videos. Articles featuring infographics receive 72% more views than text articles. So incorporating visual aspects into storytelling, especially on social, is critical. How many of you have seen this? This has been around for a while, the girl effect. Have you all seen this? So I'm going to share this deck with you after the presentation. You know, I'll show a little bit of it, maybe not the whole thing, in the interest of time. All right, that's as far as I'm going to take you. For those of you who haven't seen it, now you want to know how the story turns out. You know, that was obviously a high-end animated video, but it does a fantastic job of presenting a problem, leading people to a solution, and, you know, you never had a real protagonist, you had a symbolic protagonist, but you know, animations and infographics that then are turned into animations can be a really great tool to use. And there are software platforms, maybe, you know, this was obviously a high-end custom animation, but there are platforms you can use now that you can do very simple video animations to tell a story without a big budget. Let me, oops. So, video is the most consumed content on the web. If you use the word video in an email subject line, you can boost your open rates by 19%. People spend 88% more time on a website that has video. Internet video traffic makes up 80% of all consumer internet traffic right now and rising. 50% of people who watch a nonprofit video will go on to donate. And viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it in video compared to 10% when they just see it in text. So definitely worth incorporating video into your storytelling strategy. I know video can be expensive, but we'll talk about ways that you can do that on a budget. So you can make your story visual with animations, with B-roll footage, which is just, background footage while someone's talking, so you can visualize what they're talking about. You can do it with still photos, either that are your own or that you can purchase from a Shutterstock type service. You can easily, with software that's available now, economically turn a static infographic into an animated video or a GIF that's much more likely to be shared on social. You can use the social media platforms of Instagram and YouTube and Facebook to share behind the scenes storytelling of your organization and its impact. And then you can add design elements so that all of your visuals, all of your videos, all of your graphics are branded for your organization, and it creates that recognition that
I'll turn it down.
From you.
Just I'll turn it way down.
So one really economical way to get video content is to crowdsource it. Everybody now has a very powerful device that allows them to be a photographer. It allows them to be a video producer. It's called a smartphone. And so to open it up to your members, to open it up to the people that you help, and invite them to share their videos, their stories, is a way that you can get golden content without again busting your budget. One example of that, some years back, we worked with the Florida Bankers Association on a social media campaign called Bank on My Dreams. And the idea was that they were going to give away $5,000 awards that would, based on storytelling, transform somebody's life. And so we worked with nonprofits to nominate people who were worthy of consideration. If they got a $5,000 prize through this campaign, it would make a significant difference in their lives. And so they bubbled up amazing stories of one man who was homeless with his family and had a job, but and had the ability to get into housing, but couldn't maintain the job without transportation. And so $5,000 would allow him to get a used car and be able to maintain his support of his family. There were just stories after stories that came up through this campaign and allowed us to use the power of storytelling without having to go find those stories ourselves. They bubbled up, and I'll show you the website. So we ended up platforming all of those here. There were pictures and descriptions, there were videos, and it was just a real, on a small budget, a real feel-good campaign that allowed the Bankers Association to show bankers as dream makers, problem solvers, by helping people solve their problems. So On social media, people will tune out of videos within the first few seconds if you don't grab them. So it's very important for social media videos to be very short and very impactful at the very beginning. After the first 10 seconds of a video, people are likely to click away or scroll down. After 30 seconds, they're likely to stop watching. After 1 minute, nearly half of viewers have stopped watching. So you want to have a very succinct format for your videos. Facebook's most popular videos are under 2 minutes. You can have a longer video on YouTube, more in the 4 to 10 minute range, but you definitely want to capture their attention and emotion at the front end of a video. So how might you use a video story? Promoting an event that you have coming up, explaining your cause, explaining your mission and how you are making an impact, demonstrating the need behind fundraising by putting a human face on it. It's one thing to raise money for a global problem, but when you can show an individual who's affected by that problem, people are much more likely to get bought in and donate. You can share testimonial stories of people who your organization has helped. You can introduce your team, the stories of your team members, their passion for your mission, what they do every day is a great way to increase membership, increase interest in your organization and support for your organization by having it not be, just a faceless entity, but people who are making a difference with their time every day. And then, as we said, to thank donors and to show the impact of their donations. And we talked about measuring success. So you might measure the success of a video by the number of views, the amount of time watched. Did people get all the way to the end? Did they get through the first half of the video? Whether it had an impact on the number and amount of donations. When the video was platformed, did donations climb? Did new members join as a result of a video that you used to boost membership? And then also Facebook likes or YouTube subscribers are some of the ways you might measure success. I'm sure many of you are all familiar with Humans of New York, just an absolutely amazing storytelling platform. And it shows the power of storytelling and the power of a human face. I mean, from the earliest days of life, we are hardwired. Babies are hardwired to react to a human face. And so Humans of New York started in 2010 by a photographer, Brandon Stanton. And now their last count, I think, that has 20 million social media followers. A few years ago, he used this platform to tell the stories of pediatric cancer patients at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and also to tell the stories of the people who treated those patients and the researchers who are doing cutting edge research to find a cure. And so through that campaign, people were presented with all the aspects of that story. It breaks everyone's heart that cancer would strike a child. So to hear those stories, and then the stories of people who are, on the breaking edge of making a cure if they had the money to do it. That campaign used 50 Facebook and Instagram posts, and it raised $3.8 million from over 100,000 donors who were moved by the content, all in 14 days. Just incredible. The power of not only a story, but of a positive story where there is hope, where you feel like your donation really could make a difference in the lives of people you care about. I'll just show you a very small amount.
Another advice to other people that are going through cancer, it'll be over before you know it. Like I said before, you just have to be strong and believe in yourself, okay? I know it's going to be extremely painful, get those needles. Trust me, I've been through it because I have my bald spot over here. Still wish I had hair growing there. But yeah, so it'll be over before you know it if you be strong.
I mean, who wouldn't get bought into that mission?
Michelle, we actually do have a couple of comments in the chat as you're
Okay.
queuing up for the next one. One is definitely from, looks like Kate Crawford, regarding STEM for Girls' mission is to inspire young girls of color to explore science and technology throughout their education. We bring STEM enriched and tutorial services to underserved communities. I'm so not the storyteller, but I'd like to share the impact of our work to the community and donors. My problem is, once I get started telling success stories, I feel like I'm too wordy. What can I do to shorten the details of story and still be effective?
That's a great question. I think that the principles, the formulas that I shared earlier will help you do that. Will help you plug in and condense the story to just the main parts that move the narrative forward. We get lost sometimes in the chronology. You know, this happened and then that happened and that happened and that happened, and go into way more detail than we need. I think that the formula with the blanks that I shared earlier will allow you to just focus on the important things that move the narrative forward. And then there's nothing like telling the story through the words of the girls that you're helping. I mean, to show and to listen to a girl who all of a sudden the lights are on and her view of her possibilities, her future has been transformed because of science, and realizing that she has an aptitude that she didn't know of before, and it can open doors that she never considered. This is where a video story using the actual impact on somebody that you're working with is so much more impactful than just telling a narrative story.
Thank you, Michelle. And actually, there are a couple more questions in chat. Would you prefer us to wait towards the end to address those?
No, I think we can absolutely take those now.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we've got one from Kim Ross, and it's, I've found it difficult to get people to actually submit videos. How do you do that? We're resorting to a storytelling workshop.
So I will tell you this, our firm is launching a campaign, a gratitude campaign here in the next week to encourage people to share videos and visual posts about what they're grateful for. Because we're rolling into the Thanksgiving season, and because we've come through a really brutal time, and we had a staff member bubble this up as an idea, and so we are partnering with the Press Association nationally. And so newspapers across the country will be sharing this and inviting their readers to submit what they're grateful for. And if you give me a month, I'll tell you how that worked and what the lessons learned from that campaign are. But I think you have to give people different ways to share their content. Some people are going to be comfortable taping a little iPhone video. I think the younger that you are, the more comfortable you might be with that. Others may want to just post a picture and explain what that picture means to them, or how their story is captured in that picture. And some people are going to be more comfortable with the narrative. But if you can find the stories, you can help people. You can do the interview. You can have a conversation and videotape someone. Zoom has just demonstrated that we can be connected to people anywhere through this technology. It has a record feature. It's so easy to interview somebody via a platform like this, and just make it a conversation and capture somebody telling their story with their guard down. So I think you want to make it as easy as possible for people to share their story in the way that's comfortable for them.
So Kim Ross, thank you so much. Kim is with Rethink Energy Florida. And Michelle, you have another question from Betsy with Neighbor to Neighbor. When we get a good story posted, say on Facebook, how do we get people to look at the site?
So Ryan Cohn, who is our partner who heads up INI, is a master at digital targeting. And, you know, I think that what we've discovered is that as things change on social media, it's not about having a large number of followers and assuming that all of your followers are going to see your content, because the algorithms have changed and the content is, there's so much information out there, you couldn't possibly see everything posted by everybody you follow. So you really, you know, need a paid digital targeting strategy where you make sure that you're getting in front of the right eyeballs. You have the ability to target in very specific ways, demographics, interests, and you can put your content very cost effectively in front of just the people who are most likely to respond to it. And I'll save that for a future presentation by Ryan on digital targeting, but it's, the tools are there, and you know, you can't count on getting there organically. You really are going to have to use a little bit of paid promotion to be effective.
Great, Michelle, thank you so much. Well, the questions are coming in, so obviously a very hot topic. We have another one for you. This is from Charlotte Waters with Legal Services in North Florida. And her question is using plain language important in these stories? Do you think using the Flesch-Kincaid reading model is helpful?
You know, as journalists, no. You have to write for a you know, lower grade level education so that everybody can consume your content. You're not writing for PhDs necessarily. So I would say, yes, it's not a matter of dumbing it down, but just speaking in plain language so that your story is accessible to people of all ages, of all education levels. But that also argues for why you need to use visual storytelling. You know, the reason that you have these phenomenal stained glass windows in churches and cathedrals across the world was to tell the stories of scripture to people who couldn't read and share those through, you know, the beautiful visuals of stained glass. You know, similarly, we have such great technology tools at our fingertips today to tell visual stories and not rely on narrative alone, and we should use them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michelle. So far, those are the only questions that we have in chat. Okay. Towards the end of your presentation, we may be able to just unmute mics for people to ask questions. And thank you. So that's it for now.
Well, thank you. We are getting close to the top of the hour, and there is a video that that I want to share with you because it's so entertaining. You'll enjoy this, and so I think it's worth the 3 minutes to share this video, and then we'll talk about it.
Get a real-time bird's-eye view of your projects. Create project plans in one click. See the big picture across multiple.
You are a good person. You spend time with your family. You work out at the gym.
Push.
You conserve water while showering. You like nice clothes. You give to charity. You recycle. You drive a Prius, but you use your bike when you can. You enjoy the occasional distraction at work, and you always send a card on Mother's Day. Always. But there's a part of you that tells yourself that you're not so good, that you could be doing more, that the world is falling apart at the seams, and all you've been doing is yoga. One day you see that the rainforest is being destroyed at a staggering rate of 32 million acres a year. That's the equivalent of one football field every 78 seconds. You feel bad, angry, guilty. You've been apathetic for too long. You want to do something about it. You must do something about it. Well, this is what you're not going to do.
Quit!
You're not going to quit your job, leave your family, get on the next flight to Nicaragua, take a bus to the edge of the jungle, then hoof it across rivers, lakes, and streams on a quest to the very heart of the rainforest.
Take me to the heart of the rainforest.
You're getting closer. You're almost there. You have arrived.
You're not going to ingratiate yourself with the local tribesmen, go to great lengths to earn their respect and trust.
No.
It is around now you realize you're living out the cliche gringo fantasy of becoming an honorary native and leading the resistant forces. But screw it. If they could do it, so can you.
I'm gonna save you! This guy comes over here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna pull a zapping, that's right through him, right over here.
You're not going to coordinate and occupy the rainforest movement. Realize it's hopeless. Summon the power of the gods. Lead a revolution against the deforesters and their multinational employers in an apocalyptic once-and-for-all battle to save humanity. Only to awaken 2 days later in an El Salvadorian hospital with 2 toes missing on your left foot.
Syria, I wanna go home!
Hobble out of Central America, up through Mexico, across the Sierra Madre where you break down, have your first cigarette in 4 years, accidentally start a wildfire, killing off the endangered species that once served as your occupational distraction, finally make it back home, only to find you've been replaced at work by a guy named TJ, and that things at home are not what they used to be. You're not going to do any of these things, but what you can do is follow the frog. Buying Rainforest Alliance certified products ensures the future of our rainforests, so that you don't have to do the things you shouldn't do anyway. Just follow the frog.
Isn't that great? So that film by Max Joseph got 5 million views on YouTube. And the Rainforest Alliance had another video that was the same length. They were both 3 minutes long. That was just a straightforward telling the problem, telling, you know, the organizational story. That got 15,000 views. So it just shows the power of getting people bought into a story and transporting them really and imagining themselves. I mean, it was more and more ridiculous as it went on. But, you know, this movie was based on a particular insight that people feel hopeless about solving big problems, and that leads to paralysis. And by taking it to such an extreme and then dialing it back to, there really is something you can do, and it's pretty simple. You know, it has tremendous power to get people to take the simple step. That was all that they wanted them to do. So that was the video I wanted to show you, and I think that we're over time, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. And I really do want to encourage you to build storytelling into your culture, to, you know, use it as a tool to get people to buy into the important missions, because every one of you is making such a difference in your own area for our community, and you've got great stories to tell. Just, you know, cultivate them, harvest them, and experiment with some of the ways that we talked about in the presentation this morning to tell your own story. So any other questions?
Well, Michelle, thank you so much. My peers on with Kathleen and Amber, we were so very excited. We already knew this was going to be great. And definitely it was fantastic. There's just comments, there are great comments about the videos, good stuff. We've got John Brown on participating, Chris Peterson, Coca, to have some great comments about how they loved the guy was wearing the same clothing throughout the whole film, which continued to get tattered the more he was stuck in that film. But lots of thank yous coming up. Great information from Betty Proctor. Bruce said this was amazing, which definitely means a lot. Thank you so much, Bruce. So much useful information. Lots of thank yous coming in, Michelle, for everything. I'm sure there will be questions for all of you who are participating. This session is being recorded, and we are grateful to Michelle and Sachs Media for allowing us to not only record this amazing session, but also making it available to the nonprofit sector to review it. Share with your team and your board about storytelling and how important it is as well. So again, there's lots of great compliments coming in, Michelle. We've got a question. So Paige Rentz, thank you for your question. So the question is, do you have any suggestions for having staff members recognize potential stories? I love the idea of continually sharing stories, but that's been a struggle for our organization.
You know, I think that you can certainly provide, you know, some prizes and incentives to people who share stories, but there's nothing like the recognition of being shouted out for bringing a story to light and helping the staff understand what you can do with a story. The raw material that a story is translates into new members, it translates into donors. You know, and I think connecting the dots for them and doing some training so that they start having ears to hear stories and understanding the power of them to help the organization be more successful.
Fantastic, thank you. And again, for all of those of you who are interested in the recording, because you registered, we will be emailing you this recording directly to you. Probably within the hour. It takes a little bit of time for Zoom to actually download the recording, but once it's available, we will definitely be emailing it to you first. And then I believe someone had posted as well, we'll also make it available on the Collaborate Big Ben Facebook group page. If you have not already joined Collaborate Big Ben, then we encourage you to do that, because we will post the link on there as well too, so you can get it in a couple of different ways. And a lot more thank yous coming in, Michelle. Just a lot of again, thank yous.
Well, it was so much fun to be with everybody, and I know how hard it is to carve out an hour for another Zoom call, so thank you for being on today.
And I'll turn it back over to my partners in crime. Amber, Kathleen, any closing remarks?
No, I put it in the chat. I think this was great. A number of our members spoke up about the value of what you've provided, and looking forward to how our 3 organizations will be working with Sachs Media moving forward related to this very topic and how we can help be more of a support for our members. And again, just thank you so much for coordinating this.
Absolutely, and we invite our members of the community to also reach out to the 3 of us if you have any requests as we sit there and talk to Sachs Media and create a plan together. If you've got some ideas or requests for us, please let us know. We'd be happy to table. I also wanted to thank so much Michelle and all the amazing folks at Sachs Media for all you do for our community, the generosity that you always are putting nonprofits first in regards to your work, and consider us just such an important part of the community and help us out. And we just so appreciate that. The lessons from today, I'm hoping that we can carry over into Giving Tuesday, which is December 1st, which I would encourage everyone on this webinar to participate in and use some of these great tips that we learned from Michelle today to tell our stories the best. So, so with that, do we have any other comments or questions or any other information, Felina or Amber?
I think we're great. What a great way to start our Tuesday. So thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you on Collaborate Big Ben, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.